A great honor and quite important for me, at least, to take part in the General Memorial Days whenever I can. And as was mentioned, I took part in several of them because I really recognize the importance of dealing with the question of Palestine within the framework of a genocidal Memorial Day, which of course is something that probably in this country can only be done in this space. So I think we are very thankful for the organizers, the organization at large, for creating a space for discussing Palestine in the most direct and genuine way that is denied for many people in this country, whether they are in the academia or in the media or in the political arena. The idea that Zionism is settler colonialism is not new. Palestinian scholars in the 1960s in Beirut, in the PLO Research Center, have already then understood that they were facing in Palestine not a classical colonial project, namely that Palestine, or rather Israel, was not a British colony or an American colony as such, but it was part of a phenomenon that existed in other parts of the world that they defined as settler colonialism. It's interesting that for 20, 30 years, the notion that Zionism is settler colonialism disappeared from the discourse, the academic discourse, the political discourse, and it came back when scholars in other parts of the world, in places such as Australia, North America, South Africa, said, yes, the idea that Zionism is a similar phenomenon to the movements of Europeans who created the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. This idea helps us to understand much better what was going on in Israel and Palestine in the past, and also gives us an idea of what to expect in the future. And I think this particular idea in the 1990s that connected so clearly the actions of European settlers, especially in places such as North America and Australia, with the actions of the settlers who came to Palestine in the late 19th century, that gave clarity to a better understanding, not only of the history of Zionism in Palestine, and not only of the history of the Palestinian resistance to Zionism, but gave us already in the 1990s of the last century an indication of what to expect in the future. And the most important aspect of a settler colonial movement, the most important aspect of a settler colonial movement is its eliminatory policies. Its idea that in order to create a successful settler colonial community outside of Europe, you have to eliminate the native. The settlers themselves, as was the case of some of the Jews who came to Palestine in the late 19th century, as was the case of the Europeans who came to North America, Central America, or Australia, these people themselves sometimes were victims of persecution, were refugees themselves. Not all of them. Not everyone was attracted to build a settlement outside of Europe just because they were refugees. But many of them were outcasts in Europe and were looking for creating a Europe in